Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Paris Schutz.
And I'm Brandis Friedman. On the show tonight.
There's another reason why I vote no, Mayor. And it's because the city cannot trust you.
Despite some backlash, City Council votes yes for the mayor's multi-billion-dollar budget. What it does and does not include.
You cannot legislate healthy parent-child communication.
Advocates are working to strike down the state's final abortion restriction. That and more news from Springfield.
New Chicago Public Schools CEO Pedro Martinez on a steep drop in enrollment, a record high graduation rate, and his vision for CPS.
We are coming for every one of your damn seats, because this is not the way a government is supposed to run.
The battle over vaccine mandates. Our Spotlight Politics team breaks it down.
An FDA proposal could make hearing aids available over the counter. What this could mean for people with mild to moderate hearing loss.
Our restrooms are rarity. We hear about a Chicago Tribune investigation that looks at the shortage of public restrooms in the city.
And searching for equity on museum walls. A new exhibit looks at which art gets shown and why. But first, some of today's top stories. Illinois residents struggling to make rent could be getting a new round of assistance from the state. Applications for grants up to $25,000 will be available starting November 8th.
The reopening of the rental assistance payment program is critical right now. We understand that there are people right now who are afraid that they may not have a place. There are people that are afraid that their shelter may not have enough beds, and our duty is to make sure we prevent homelessness at all costs.
The program pays rent directly to landlords. Illinois has approved 57,000 applications for assistance worth more than $515 million in this first round. 10,000 fewer students are attending Chicago Public Schools this year. New numbers show enrollment fell to 330,000 students from around 340,000 last year, a decline of 3%. But it's part of a decline of 18.3% over the last decade. The district counts an overall decline in the U.S. birth rate, plus some transfers to public schools outside of CPS as reasons for the decline. The district calculates its annual enrollment based on the number of students in attendance on the 20th school day of the year, which was exactly 1 month ago on September 27th. And we'll have more on this school year with new CPS CEO Pedro Martinez in just a few minutes. Alderman Patrick Daley Thompson is expected to stand trial on several federal charges starting in February. A judge set that trial date this morning. His trial had been scheduled to start last week, but was postponed after a member of the prosecutor's family suffered a medical emergency. The 11th Ward alderman is accused of lying to federal bank regulators and filing false tax returns. The 51-year-old has pleaded not guilty to all charges. He is one of 3 sitting alderpeople charged with federal crimes. You can read more about that on our website. Up next, the full city council voted on and passed the mayor's multi-billion-dollar budget. But was everyone on board? Stay with us.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
In a final vote of 35 to 15, Chicago's City Council approved Mayor Lightfoot's $16.7 billion budget today. This comes after a series of last-minute changes, including the budget's mental health and housing components. And here's the mayor after today's big vote.
With the passage of this budget, the collective we are serving notice that our future as a great global city lies in all 77 of our neighborhoods. All of them, and that we will leave no one behind.
And WTTW News reporter Heather Sharon joins us now with more. So Heather, let's go through some of the finer points of this budget that passed today. First, it takes effect January 1st of next year. It spends nearly $2 billion in federal COVID-19 relief funds. It sets aside more than $31 million for a direct cash assistance program that will be in the form of $500 payments per month for a year to 5,000 families. It sends $2 billion to the city's 4 pension funds, and it earmarks $275 million for CPD officer pay increases. So in addition to that $2 billion federal stimulus money. Heather, how else is the city going to pay for this large spending budget?
Well, not only that, the city had to close a $733 million budget gap, which was really what was left over from the ravages of the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic-induced economic collapse. So the city's going to refinance $1.2 billion to save another $250,000. And it is going, and the mayor has identified another $300 million in savings to make this very complicated budget plan work.
And there are some last-minute changes, as we mentioned, including spending for mental health and other city services. It didn't make every single alderperson happy. Here's one that still voted no.
You also hear the mayor worked with progressive city council members on housing, homelessness, and mental health. But what that really means is that we settled for a pittance of an extra $10 million in funding out of the $100 million that was requested, 10% of what's needed, despite there being almost $2 billion allocated for the city from the American Rescue funding.
So for the most part, progressives were happy with the increase in spending on things like mental health and low-income housing assistance. What is this alderman getting at here?
Well, Alderman Byron Sigcho-Lopez was one of several progressive aldermen who wanted all $1.9 billion from the American Rescue Plan to go to direct aid for Chicagoans hit hardest during the pandemic. But the mayor used about 70% of that, about $1.3 billion, to fill those budget gaps left from 2021, this year, and to save some money for next year, 2023, just in case the pandemic continues to rage. To make it all work, the mayor also got pushed through a plan to borrow $660 million to fuel those projects that earned her the support of the Progressive Caucus and most of the Socialist Caucus as well. But some aldermen just didn't think it was enough.
One of those projects had a $31 million for a direct cash assistance program to 5,000 Chicago families, or is it 500 Chicago families? Remind us, not everyone was happy with that either.
That's right. That project had been blocked for months by the City Council's Black Caucus, who wanted the city to first address reparations for the descendants of enslaved African Americans. It also drew fire from conservative aldermen who considered it a giveaway that would discourage Chicagoans from seeking jobs and sort of getting back on their own 2 feet. It passed, but we'll have to keep a close eye on what the rules for the program are, because it's not clear how those 5,000 families will be chosen and what criteria will be used.
Right, a lot to figure out about that. So 5,000 families getting $500 monthly payments as part of this program. We're going to have a lot more about this when you join us for Spotlight Politics, Heather. But for now, thanks so much.
Thanks, Paris.
And you can read Heather's full story on our website, where you can learn more about what's inside the budget. That's all at WTTW.com/news. And now to Brandis and the new Chicago Public Schools CEO. Brandis.
In Paris, as we mentioned earlier, enrollment data released today shows a steep drop in the number of students attending Chicago public schools, about 10,000 fewer than last year. But the district is also boasting a record-high graduation rate at a time when the ongoing pandemic has intensified the challenge of keeping students engaged. And this is also a time when CPS is under new leadership, with a former graduate taking the helm after serving more recently as head of San Antonio's public schools. Joining us now is the new Chicago Public Schools CEO, Pedro Martinez. Pedro, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So as we mentioned, the official CPS enrollment numbers came out today showing 10,000 fewer students this year. What do you think accounts for that decline?
You know, what we're seeing in the data is that we had a larger than normal number of students that transferred out of Chicago, as well as we have seen already for many years, just lower birth rates. So when we factored in children that graduated, which, as you mentioned earlier, we had a record graduation rate this last year. But when you look at children coming into the system and you net that out with children leaving the system, we were down just a little over 10,000 students.
What do you plan on doing, or what can you do to reverse that trend?
So, you know, for me, you know, I'm just about to finish my first month, and, you know, and I just have a lot of questions. As I look at each of our neighborhoods, we have 77 neighborhoods, and I'm very proud of our city that, you know, we are a city of neighborhoods. I want to look at neighborhood by neighborhood, what happened in terms of enrollment, but even questions around the quality of the programming. Asking, do we have a clear standard of what every child in CPS should be receiving? And with that standard, what does it look like neighborhood by neighborhood? Because one of the concerns that I have, or one of the questions is, are children leaving our district because the quality programming isn't as accessible or as consistent across every neighborhood? And so those are questions that I'm asking, that over the next month, I will be bringing more information to the community and then developing a plan with them around how do we move forward to both address not only the enrollment declines, but making sure their children, and that they feel good, that their children have access to a high quality programming.
Now, the district has also taken some criticism for what is believed to not be doing enough to protect students and staff from COVID-19. Give us a brief update, if you would, on where you all stand with regard to testing and contact tracing.
When I started in the district, I could feel the anxiety for both our staff and our parents. And so, my first few weeks, I spent, just a significant amount of time on this. I've been doing, for example, media events with Dr. Awadi, partnering with our leader in the Department of Health. And what I can tell you is, first of all, our contact tracing, our COVID testing significantly has been ramped up, significantly improved from when we started the school year. And I'm seeing COVID cases at an all-time low. We have been hovering less than 200 cases per week for students. And remember, we have over 330,000 students in person almost every day. And with almost 40,000 staff, we're seeing well under 100 cases of staff having COVID. With that, though, I will say this: we are quarantining way too many students, and that is not what I'm hearing. So I'm hearing less concerns about safety. I'm hearing more concerns from both my staff and my parents about the fact that we're quarantining too many children. And so in the next few weeks, we're going to be working with the Department of Health and following national and state guidance about how to use COVID testing in a more strategic way so that we lessen the quarantine of children.
Now, the district's relationship with the Chicago Teachers Union has been strained, to put it mildly. Are you hopeful that you can mend fences, and what is that relationship like so far?
Well, I was able to have dinner with both Jesse and Stacy, the leadership of the CTU. And, what we talked about is just, since the time that I've been gone, there's been a lot of trust that's been lost over the last decade. I've been gone for about 12 years. And we both talked about how do we start rebuilding that trust. And so we made a commitment to at least continue to talk, to meet on a regular basis, to discuss issues. I think we have more things in common than we have apart. So that's going to be my goal. My goal is to work with them. They are a critical partner for us in terms of as we move the work forward. And I want them at the table. And so, that was my commitment to them is let's at least meet, let's talk. We'll have differences, but I think the majority of the time we'll have more things in common.
Okay. CPS also released its yearly report card recently, showing a record high graduation rate as well as a record low dropout rate, and almost all students having developed a graduation plan as a part of the district's Learn, Plan, Succeed program. To what do you credit such a low dropout rate, especially during the second year of a pandemic when engagement is a challenge and enrollment numbers have already fallen?
So first of all, I couldn't be prouder of our high schools. Last year, one of the things that I saw in our data is that we had almost 6,000 12th graders that were disengaged. They were at risk of not graduating. And the high schools leveraged the relationships they had with our students. One of the things that I'm seeing across our high schools is the relationships. When I talk to our students and I ask them, do you have somebody in the school that you can trust, that you can go to when you're worried about something? And I'm hearing consistently from our students that they do. And we're seeing it in the data. When you look at even our enrollment drops, our highest numbers of enrollment are in the high schools because the children are not dropping out, they're staying in school. I'm seeing amazing programming across the high schools that are engaging the children, pathways and things like in green energy, like solar tech, but as well as computer science, IB programs, fine arts. And so I think all of these items are contributing. And when you look at our graduation over the last 10 years, before I left, our graduation rate was under 60%. And now we're well over close to 84% on a 5-year graduation rate, on a 4-year over 80%. And I'll tell you, districts our size, you don't see these kind of high graduation rates, but not only that, almost 70% of our children are going to college. They're generating over $1 billion in scholarships. So I'm just very proud of our high schools, but of course, it's a team effort between our elementaries and our high schools together.
And Pedro, a little bit about your background. It's in business and nonprofits rather than the classroom. And before joining CPS under then CEO Arnie Duncan and serving as budget director and chief financial officer, that's what you did at the time. How does all of that background inform the work that you'll do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been very blessed. So I started on the business side and the operations side of the work, but I'll tell you, I was mentored to really go into the academics. So when I ended the first time I was here at CPS, I was actually supervising a group of schools on the west side. And then I went to become the #2 leader, overseeing academics full-time, principals, teachers, redesigning curriculum, creating new school models. And I did that for many years before becoming a superintendent. And for the last 12 years, that's what I've been doing. It's really focused on academics. And so now coming back to Chicago, I have the unique blessing to be able to understand each of the roles. But I'll tell you, I, to this day, am still humbled by the work of our teachers. When I walk into classrooms and I see our amazing teachers engaging our children, helping our children that are struggling with rigor, or they're struggling with a specific assignment or a certain standard, I am just humbled by just their amazing work. So I will always humble myself with our teachers, but I also feel very blessed that I have a well-rounded experience, and it's going to serve me well in this role.
Chicago is moving towards a partially appointed, partially elected school board. First election scheduled for November 2024. You, of course, have experience working with an elected school board in San Antonio. How do you think that shift will change CPS here?
It's all I've known as a superintendent and CEO is elected school boards for the last 12 years. I've had 2 superintendencies in San Antonio, where I was there almost 7 years. I had a 7-member board, fully elected. And even though there was turnover with different elections, I never had less than a 7-0 vote. And so that's been the experience I've had. For me, I think it's less about the governance structure. It's more about the individuals and us having a clear vision for the district and being aligned in values. For me, my values here in Chicago, it's about equity. It's making sure that every child has access to quality programming and that everybody has access to be able to reach their goals and their dreams.
And Pedro, before we let you go, we know that recent CPS CEOs have often served for a relatively short time, probably with the exception of your most recent predecessor. Are you hopeful that you'll have a long tenure?
The whole reason I came to Chicago, because I was doing very well in San Antonio. I had a 5-year contract there. It had been renewed and extended twice. Like I said, I had a board and a committee that completely supported me. And the only reason I came was not only to come home, but I wanted to make our district better, to build on the success that we've had in the past. And what I asked for was the longest contract that I could get. And I have a 5-year contract. And if you go back 10 superintendents, 10 CEOs, you won't find somebody with a contract as long as this one. And so that's what I feel very blessed. And I'm very grateful to Mayor Light for giving me this opportunity. And I am going to be a champion for our children here in Chicago.
And Pedro Martinez, I know that you had your first board meeting this morning. I can see you were still in the office there, so a long day for you. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back on the show again soon.
Thank you for having me.
And now, Paris, back to you.
All right, Brandis, thanks very much. And Illinois is on the verge of eliminating the state's last restriction on abortions. That's among the action in Springfield, where the legislature is in the midst of its last scheduled session of the year. Amanda Vinicky joins us now with the latest. Amanda, what is the latest?
Well, so Paris, Illinois has had a law on the books since 2019, so fairly recently actually, that protects access to an abortion as a fundamental right. But critics say that there's another older law, this one that's been in place since the mid-90s, that infringes on that right. And this requires that parents receive at least 48 hours notice before their minor child can have an abortion. And critics are working to repeal that Parental Notification Act. Taylor Lane is a student at University of Illinois Chicago, and she says that it is impossible to legislate healthy child-parent conversations and relationships.
By forcing conversations with certain designated family members, this law serves to only potentially put young people in danger. We know our lives and our situations. Our work shows us that young people who are forced to notify their parents of this procedure face consequences such as homelessness, abuse, and loss of financial and emotional support.
Now, the existing law does offer a workaround to parental notification by allowing teens who are in potentially abusive relationships to instead have a confidential hearing with a judge. And State Representative Avery Bourne, a Republican from Central Illinois, says that outside of those particular circumstances, parents should very much be made aware if their child is going to have a procedure that has very grave, she says, emotional, psychological, and potential health consequences.
There is no requirement, if this were to pass, that any parent would ever know that their 13-year-old got an abortion because their 20-year-old boyfriend took them. There is no requirement that they would know.
Now, the Senate last night voted to repeal that Parental Notification Act, but the House beginning to gather, got a full night still yet ahead. There is still a lot of hesitancy in this chamber, so we'll be watching to see whether, in fact, they send that measure to Governor J.B. Pritzker, who supports repeal. It is, however, full steam ahead for other issues, including some changes to that relatively new law that gives Chicago an elected school board. Among those changes, putting an immediate moratorium on closure of any CPS schools. Also, a provision that forbids members of this to be elected board from getting paid for that. That's something that has State Representative Curtis Tarver concerned. He says that to do that board job effectively, you have to put in at least 25, maybe 30 hours a week. And he's concerned that only wealthy individuals will run to be on the elected school board if they aren't going to get paid for that work.
I know there's a lot of talk about no other school board, in Illinois that's elected gets paid, and none of them have 400,000 students either. None of them have the gun violence that we have. None of them have, the students with PTSD and things like that we have in Chicago. And so I just feel personally, and I want to say this more from our district, who will come after me about this, that I think we do need to pay people who are on that board. We pay people on the police board and they do nothing.
Now, another measure that is poised to soon be likely heading to Pritzker's desk guarantees that teachers, custodians, food service workers, bus drivers will be paid even if classes are canceled or they have to go remote. State Senator Christopher Belt says that teachers, they're very important. He says that he recently watched the new movie Halloween Kills, and the thought struck him that COVID has done more to wreak havoc and deaths in these past 2 years than that fictional villain Michael Myers has in 40 years.
And yet we require our teachers and support staff to go in person, to go back in person, to teach, to do their jobs and encounter their students and quite possibly encounter COVID.
Now, some teachers, as well as nurses and other workers, have been using Illinois' Healthcare Right of Conscience Act to skirt COVID testing, masking, vaccinations, mandates. Now, that law was put in place in Illinois to prevent doctors and other healthcare workers with religious or moral objections from having to perform procedures like abortions. Governor J.B. Pritzker says it was never intended to allow anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers from avoiding the rules during a deadly pandemic.
That's very different than someone refusing to get tested when they're walking into a school. That's not a healthcare provider. That's just an individual just yelling out conscience and saying, I don't want to do it, isn't good enough. We have to keep people healthy and safe. That's the whole purpose of the mitigations that we've put in place.
But the Pritzker administration is struggling to win legislative approval for modifying the Healthcare Right of Conscience Act to clarify that protections do not cover these COVID protections and mitigations. Now, at an unrelated event this morning, Pritzker was asked whether the struggle to get his way on both this and the parental notification repeal, what that says about his political influence and relationship with legislators or lack thereof. Now, he brushed off that question, instead shifting the blame and saying that those are not actually his key initiatives. Pritzker says that his priority is winning tax credits and other incentives for electric vehicle manufacturers, and there are negotiations ongoing with that, but so far far, that too appears to be stalled. There's a rift with unions. Now, Pritzker today announced that next month he's going to be traveling overseas, going to London and Glasgow to try and talk about Illinois' major energy package and also to talk about Illinois as a destination for clean energy businesses, hinging on that incentive package eventually getting passed. He really wants Illinois to play ball in that sector. And, speaking of playing ball, another proposal that we're getting attention here in the Capitol would allow betting on Illinois college sports events. Right now, you cannot place a bet if there is any sort of game or match with an Illinois university or college playing. But it seems as if there is some, well, if I was going to place my bets, I guess, if you will, that is another measure that will be going to the governor's desk to allow it. With that, back to you.
A lot of activity down there right now, Amanda, including, as you mentioned at the beginning, the parental notification law, which we will talk about more in Spotlight. And up next, searching for equity on museum walls. So stay with us.
Spend Saturday evening with the Voices of Chicago. Latino Voices at 6 and Black Voices at 6:30. See you on Saturdays. And there's much more ahead on the program, including an investigative report on a public bathroom shortage in Chicago. But first, when art museums don't reflect on the past, sometimes artists do it for them. In 1989, a group of artists called the Guerrilla Girls raised the question, do women have to be naked to get into the Met Museum? They noted that only 5% of the artists in the museum were women, but 85% of the nudes were female. That poster is among the works in a new show about equity and diversity at the Block Museum of Art on the campus of Northwestern. Producer Mark Vitale has the story on an exhibition called Who Says, Who Knows What Counts?
Who Says, Who Shows What Counts is an exhibition of contemporary art that challenges us to question how we think about the past. It includes more than 80 works from around the world, all of which are new to the Block's collection. We've been doing a lot of thinking about not only what we collect, but also how and why. We wanted to look at artists who are using interesting strategies to help us to think about the past in new ways.
Artists include Kara Walker, whose silhouettes depict racial trauma, and Pat Phillips, whose painting, You Want to See a Dead Body, references both the movie Boys in the Hood and Disney animation. Artworks are grouped in 4 categories: institutions, reframing the past, place and memory, and portraiture.
With portraiture, we're thinking about who's represented in history, how and by whom. In this space, we're thinking about place and memory. How is history etched onto a landscape or erased from it?
There are works from Tanika Lewis Johnson's Folded Map project, which connects residents who live at corresponding addresses on the north and south sides of Chicago. And a study of Miles Davis made for the Wall of Respect that once stood at 43rd Street and Langley. International works include embroidery depicting a tragedy in South Africa, watercolors of civil unrest in Mexico, and photos that document the cycle of seasons in the Jilin province of China. Wall text was written by more than just the curators.
We wanted to really think about who was given the voice of expert in this show. So you'll see that all of the labels in the exhibition are written by students, faculty, alumni, and staff of Northwestern, really kind of decentralizing that curatorial voice and giving it over to our community.
Students had a voice in selecting some new acquisitions, including this one.
It was a work created during COVID. It's called Quarantine Blues. I feel like a lot of the students and I definitely felt like it was reflective of a lot of our experiences, but also in an interesting way imagining and using fantasy and kind of this color and whimsy to characterize it in a new way. So we felt like it was both a marker of the history that we were all experiencing at that time.
Museums are always making decisions about what we collect and what we exhibit. And in that sense, we're deciding whose stories are most valued and most visible. And we felt it was really important to take time thinking about that to include more diverse perspectives in the stories that we tell. So with this exhibition, we're pulling back the curtain a bit to show how this work that we're doing of collecting is intended to be more inclusive, more intentional.
For Chicago Tonight, this is Mark Vitale.
And the show Who Shows What Counts, I said it wrong earlier. It's at the Block Museum of Art on Northwestern University's Evanston campus. It's free and open to the public, and it runs through December 5th. You can see more from the exhibit on our website. And now, Paris, back to you.
All right, Brandis, thanks. And still to come on Chicago Tonight, an FDA proposal could make hearing aids available over the counter. What this could mean for access to hearing technology. Are restrooms a rarity? We hear about a Chicago Tribune investigation that looks at how a shortage of public restrooms could be impacting Chicagoans.
We are coming for every one of your damn seats.
And our Spotlight Politics team on the ongoing battle over the mayor's vaccine mandate and the new hearing scheduled for Friday. But first, some more of today's top stories. The John Doe at the center of the Chicago Blackhawks sexual abuse investigation speaks out publicly this evening. Kyle Beach was a former first-round draft pick and minor leaguer in the Blackhawks organization. This was around the time an investigation confirmed he was sexually assaulted by a former Blackhawks video coach, Brad Aldrich. Beach spoke out today on Canadian sports network TSN. An outside investigation conducted by Jenner and Block confirmed Beach's allegations and that top Blackhawks brass knew and kept Aldrich around for the team's 2010 Stanley Cup run. General Manager Stan Bowman resigned yesterday amid the fallout. Beach talked about the disgust he felt when he saw Aldrich celebrate with the Stanley Cup despite the allegations.
It made me feel like nothing. It made me feel like I didn't exist. It made me feel that I wasn't important. And it made me feel like that he was in the right and I was wrong.
Beach also says he believes Blackhawks players, coaches, staff, and even media knew about the allegations at the time. And late this evening, the Blackhawks released a statement commending Beach's courage for coming forward and apologizing once again for the team's misconduct. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland addressed Chicago gun violence today. Garland was testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee, chaired by Illinois Senator Dick Durbin. Durbin asked Garland about beefing up efforts to go after straw purchasers and gun traffickers, particularly in neighboring states like Indiana and Wisconsin, where illegal guns routinely wind up on Chicago streets.
As you know, Chicago is one of the task force cities that we've announced for purposes of tracing this gun trafficking problem. And we are doing so and finding the straw purchasers and arresting them as well. I could not agree more that this is a serious, serious problem that needs the attention of the entire country's law enforcement, and the Justice Department is very much involved in the fight.
And now we go back to Brandis with details into a new FDA proposal. Brandis.
In Paris, hearing aids may soon be available over the counter. Last week, the FDA issued a proposal to allow hearing aids to be sold directly to consumers without a medical exam or fitting by an audiologist. This comes after Congress passed legislation in 2017 requiring the FDA to create an over-the-counter category. The agency says some 37 million American adults have difficulty hearing, but only 1 in 5 people who need hearing aids actually have them. One barrier is the cost. Some say this legislation could lower that financial burden. Joining us to talk about the proposal and what it could mean for people with mild to moderate hearing loss are Barbara Kelly, Executive Director of the Hearing Loss Association of America, a consumer group which has a chapter in Chicago, and Mike Sharp, an audiologist and the Vice President of Audiological Affairs at the Illinois Speech Language Hearing Association. Thanks to you both for joining us. So first, Mike, if you would, please explain the proposal and what it could mean for people with hearing loss.
So the proposal is currently from the FDA in a 90-day comment period for organizations and consumers to comment on. Right now, we don't have a deadline as far as when that'll be out for consumers, but what it should do is create a category of hearing devices that will be available over the counter for patients to be able to access. What's really nice about that is for the right consumer, they could be a very good option for someone who maybe has potential pricing issues, or maybe even has some sort of, maybe doesn't want to enter the hearing aid market at the current time, that sort of thing. So there's lots of other options for patients, is hopefully what it'll create.
And Barbara Kelly, what's your reaction to this proposal from the FDA? This, of course, comes, as we mentioned, after the 2017 legislation that pushed for over-the-counter hearing aids.
Well, we've been waiting for the proposed rules, and we're very excited about it. These are just for adults with mild to moderate hearing loss. And we know that when someone finds out they have a hearing loss, they wait 5 to 10 years before they do anything about it. And that's just way too long to go without those human connections. And there's some comorbidities associated with hearing loss. So if this gets a person to take that first step sooner rather than later, when hearing health appears to be a little more mainstream, that's a good thing.
And briefly, Barbara, you mentioned comorbidities related to hearing loss. What are a couple of those?
Yes, well, untreated hearing loss is associated with falls, and that's the number one thing that takes older people to the emergency room. Isolation, because you're cut off from human connections, and it's just too hard to go out in groups and not be able to hear, or family gatherings. And so people tend to isolate, which could lead to anxiety and depression. And there's research being done on the cognitive link between untreated hearing loss and cognitive decline. So hearing health is very much a part of overall health, as is everything else, our blood pressure, cholesterol levels, everything.
And Mike Sharp, who are we talking about here? Because I think there's this misconception, obviously, that it's just older adults impacted by this, but it's actually more prevalent.
Much more prevalent. There's a lot more younger adults who may have long-term noise exposure because of their job. They may have had recreational noise exposure, or some people for genetic factors just are more susceptible to hearing loss earlier on in life. We see patients all the time in my clinics that are in their 40s and 50s that may have mild hearing loss. Maybe they're not ready to take the jump for a traditional hearing aid fitting at that point. So there's something like an OTC may be a better fit for them. The couple of things to be careful of are there are certain types of hearing loss that are caused by medical conditions. So an evaluation from an audiologist is always the most beneficial, but it's always not the most realistic in every situation. So an over-the-counter hearing test could potentially, like I said, be beneficial for people who maybe don't feel like they have the type of problem that warrants a traditional hearing aid fitting.
And Barbara, how expensive can hearing aids get, and how might over-the-counter aids help mitigate that?
Well, hearing aid cost runs the gamut. I mean, there are top-of-the-line hearing aids that have artificial intelligence that monitor your blood pressure and when you fall. And then, they can run down to $2,000 a pair. So instead of talking thousands, we'd be talking hundreds. But the important thing to note is that when you get a hearing aid with an audiologist or a hearing aid specialist, you're also paying for those services. And for some people, that's very important. The aftercare, the follow-up, the fitting, the oral rehabilitation. With over-the-counter products, these are going to be totally self-fitting without the help of a professional. So we're talking hundreds as opposed to thousands. And some people just need a little hearing enhancement. People who might be, in their 50s, who might still be in the workplace, aging into their hearing loss, or they've had a lifetime of exposure, who might need a little help in the conference room, at a table, around, with a meeting. So that's why the over-the-counter market opens up a lot of possibilities for people.
And Mike, there are also, though, devices called personal sound amplification products that are available on the market. Briefly walk us through the difference between those and what could be this new category of over-the-counter hearing aids.
Personal sound amplifiers are devices that aren't regulated by any organization. So they are kind of the wild, wild west, so to speak. So most of them tend to just be amplifiers that can turn everything louder and everything softer. The downside to that is most hearing loss is more complex than that. Most hearing loss happens where, for example, because of aging, people will have good low pitch hearing and significantly more hearing loss in the high pitch range. It causes people to have issues where they say, it's not that I can't hear, it's I have trouble understanding what you're saying. Well, the problem with PSAPs or personal sound amplifiers is they can turn it, once you turn it up loud enough to accommodate for the high pitches, you may actually be way over amplifying other areas of the hearing loss or lack thereof. So an OTC would actually be, even though there's no hearing test from a audiologist or hearing aid specialist, You would be taking a sort of hearing test via usually an app on the phone, I'm assuming. We don't have all of those answers yet, but that's the most likely thing, I would assume.
And it sounds like sorry, we're out of time, but it sounds like the OTC hearing aids would be more specific devices compared to the others. That's all we've got time for. But Mike Sharp, Barbara Kelly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, Paris, we toss it back to you.
Thanks, Brandis. Chicago has a critical shortage when it comes to public bathrooms. That's according to a recent investigation by the Chicago Tribune that found city government has failed to provide the public with easy, consistent access to free toilets with scant information available about those that do exist. As the story found, it's not only a public health issue, but a public safety one as well. And joining us to talk about the story is its author, Emily Horner, a reporter with Chicago Tribune's investigative team. Emily, thanks for being here. First of all, how many available restrooms publicly are there in the city, and where do they tend to be located?
So I filed a bunch of Information Act requests to compile all of the barrier-free restrooms. So public restrooms that don't require you to go through security or pay, for entrance, be a customer, anything like that. And we found that there were fewer than 500 of these, barrier-free, easy access public restrooms in the city. And they're located all throughout the city. We did find that there were, swaths of the city that had few or none of these facilities. So it just varies from, neighborhood to neighborhood. Really.
And Emily, how does this lack of barrier-free restrooms impact Chicago residents, as we mentioned at the top, not just on a public health level, but public safety?
I talked with a lot of people who are unhoused in the city who, struggle daily, regularly to find a place to use the restroom facility, which is something that a lot of people, need to do every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And it can be really difficult for folks. They face stigma. It is dehumanizing to have to go to the bathroom outdoors in alleys, to be seen doing this. So it puts people in a difficult situation if they don't have a place to go, and it can lead to public health concerns as well, pathogen spread and human waste, and it can be dangerous.
And it can also be bad for somebody's criminal record, because as you found, the Chicago police do issue citations and arrest folks for public urination or defecation. Tell us what you found with those statistics.
Yeah, so since 2016, there have been about 29,000 tickets issued for public urination and defecation throughout the city. Many of them have been issued on the south and west sides. There is a smaller amount of people who have been arrested, including, there were about 50 people since 2014 who have been arrested on multiple occasions for public urination and defecation.
And there's been some cities like DC and San Francisco that have tried pilots with public restrooms. As the city of Chicago indicated that they have any policy thoughts in mind to address this issue.
The city has told me that they currently have no efforts underway to improve access to public restrooms at this time.
And what are some of these other cities doing? And are they working?
Yes, so DC is a very interesting place. They're trying two different programs. One is to place permanent toilets that are kind of indestructible, open 24/7 in a couple of key locations. They're also trying a business incentive program where, businesses kind of opt in to become a public restroom, and the government will incentivize them to do so. They can leave the program at any time. So those are two interesting things. In San Francisco, employees are posted at public restrooms, so they have somebody monitoring the restrooms that do exist. And people that I spoke with in San Francisco said that has helped their public restroom issues.
And you mentioned in the article that Starbucks has even tried allowing that, and it's been kind of hit or miss in terms of how that impacts business. I want to throw up a map of where the public restrooms are, because you mentioned public parks. One thing I didn't know, and there they are, the colors sort of represent a different public building that the restrooms exist. I learned in your article that police stations, those are public restrooms that anyone can go in and use, correct?
Yes, and they are some of the few restrooms that are open 24 hours a day over the nighttime and, all year long in the winter.
And a lot of people don't use them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are unaware that, that's an option.
And you said that this is part of the problem, that the city isn't really advertising, where you can go.
Right. There's not a ton of information. There isn't, one agency that kind of oversees all the public restrooms in the city or anything like that. So, part of what we wanted to do with this reporting was, build a tool for people to use as well to be able to locate some of these restrooms.
Certainly an important issue that does affect broad swaths of the Chicago body politic. All right, Emily Horner, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And up next, our Spotlight Politics team on vaccine mandates, the city budget, and much more. But first, we take a look at the weather.
The mayor's $16.7 billion budget passes by a vote of 35 to 15, and her property tax hike passes as well, but with fewer votes. Here with all that and more is our Spotlight Politics team, Heather Sharon, Amanda Vinicky, and Paris Schutz. So everybody, as we heard earlier, Mayor Lightfoot's budget sailed through City Council today. Take a look at some of what she said this afternoon.
That's why, ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud of this budget. Truly, the most progressive and forward-looking budget in our city's history.
And Heather, property taxes going up slightly in addition to the hike tied to the rate of inflation. Will there be any political ramifications for this hike?
Well, it's hard to say because it is only going to amount to about $38 a year for the owner of a home worth $250,000. But for some aldermen, it was just a deal breaker that they couldn't ask their voters to pay more. And of course, the next round of municipal elections isn't that far away in 2023. And it just seemed to several people as just a little bit of insult to injury, especially because there's so much spending on just a wide range of other social safety net programs.
And Heather, City Council also approved $500 monthly payments to 5,000 low-income Chicagoans. Who qualifies for this?
Well, that is really the $500 question, Brandis. We just don't know how the city is going to choose these families and what criteria they'll have to meet. And that's something that the City Council's Black Caucus Chair, Alderman Jason Irvin, told me he'll be looking at very closely, because this is one of those programs where really the devil is in the details. His caucus has been pushing for reparations to the descendants of enslaved African Americans. So I know he's hoping to maybe shape this program to maybe address that desire in at least a start way.
And this is just a pilot, right, for 1 year?
Right. This is just 1 year, and it will be the largest in the nation. And you heard Mayor Lori Lightfoot say that was one of the reasons she's very proud of this budget.
Paris, there's borrowing in this budget in spite of a windfall from the federal government. Why is that?
That was, I think, to get progressive votes on board for this budget, because a lot of progressives or the Democratic Socialist Caucus were upset that $2 billion in federal money, a lot of it was going to pay back a lot of high-interest borrowing that happened during the pandemic and holes that were cut into the budget because of the pandemic. They wanted more of that for social spending programs. And so the compromise here appears to be the $660 million in borrowing to spend on the rest of those programs. Remains to be seen whether the city can really afford that over the long term with its debt position. Although, as Scott Waguespack, the alderman, mentioned yesterday, it did get a ratings notch upgrade this week. So, the other thing I got to watch for is these programs. There are a lot of new programs. Will they be sustainable in years to come where there won't be federal bailout money?
And Heather, some older people have also forced a meeting on the mayor's vaccine mandate for Friday. Give us a preview.
Well, 13 aldermen signed a letter forcing a meeting at 11 a.m. Friday, and they are going to take another crack at passing their measure, which was blocked from advancing on Monday, that would roll back the vaccine mandate imposed by Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Some of them oppose the vaccine mandate and say it's none of the city's business. Others say that Mayor Lightfoot should have gone through the city council and had the aldermen weigh in as they try to craft a compromise. 26 aldermen will have to show up on Friday for this meeting to take place. After the city council meeting today, the mayor didn't take questions about that special meeting, saying she wanted to focus on the celebration of her budget. So we'll have to see if the city council will meet for the third time this week.
Okay. And then, of course, speaking of vaccine mandates, state lawmakers will debate on the House floor whether Illinois residents should not be able to use the state's Health Care Right of Conscience Act to skirt the governor's public employee mandate. Amanda, who and what was this right of conscience law intended to cover, and what's the over under? What's going on?
Well, so this law was really intended for a narrow scope for doctors who don't want to perform abortions, except for it isn't written in that way. It doesn't reference abortion. It's written in a very broad fashion. And so actually the House still tonight could take up voting on narrowing that scope some by explicitly stating that employers, so the state of Illinois, but also private businesses, would be able to include COVID mandate sort of requirements for masking, testing, vaccinations, those sort of things. The over-under, we will see pushed back debate by at least about an hour or so as legislators continue to meet behind closed doors about this. And we could see it passing because there is an amendment on the legislation that would mean it won't take effect immediately, and that is in place because it's easier to pass. You need to have a supermajority for anything that is going to take effect right away. Of course, that provides a little bit of a problem, however, because you have really an avalanche of lawsuits over this, citing this law, and so if you have Illinois wanting to keep up with the mandate, well, delaying any sort of change to the Right of Conscience Act could cause some trouble for those mandates staying around.
And we know that abortion itself actually is on the agenda this week. Changes to the parental notification abortion law passed in the Senate in spite of a big showing from faith leaders who protested against the repeal. Heather, is this going to be a tough vote for the Dems?
Well, it will be a tough vote for some Democrats, but, several years ago, after Governor J.B. Pritzker took office, he said he wanted to make Illinois the most progressive state in the nation when it comes to reproductive rights, and this is certainly part of that effort. This law has only been on the books since 2019, and it is opposed by reproductive rights advocates because they say that it falls most heavily on women and girls who are in unsafe situations. So it has long been sort of at the top of reproductive rights advocates' wish lists to repeal. We'll have to see if it will get done now in this post-Texas world with the Supreme Court weighing the future of Roe versus Wade.
Right. I was going to say, the politics here is this is occurring in a time where there are states like Texas, Mississippi, putting more abortion restrictions in place and really challenging Roe v. Wade. So Illinois, this is good politics for Illinois to, at least for Illinois Democrats, to be seen as taking this state in the other direction, because that issue has proven to be a wedge issue. There are midterms coming up. It proves to get people mobilized and knocking on doors and perhaps getting out and voting in midterms.
And of course, lawmakers are also working on the latest incarnation of the congressional map. Amanda, clearly they listened to the blowback about the first map. What's the scuttlebutt on this one? And are they still negotiating behind closed doors?
They very much are, and alas, they are closed doors, so I'm not in on those meetings, but very clearly discussions continue to take place, because I had seen actually the president of the state Senate a couple weeks ago, and he said, that is the priority really for getting done this veto session, passing those congressional maps, and yet we haven't seen a final version. Seems as if that still could come tonight. Again, lots still going on. If not, it'll be tomorrow. That will be the day for maps. One of the areas of concern is that the latest version does create two maps that are designed to have a lot of Latino voters. But there are those that say, wait a second, is that dividing the Latino population up too much and then not giving a guaranteed Latino majority seat. So that is among the concerns, at least I imagine, and from what I'm hearing, because again, this really is a very secretive process and one that we don't have a ton about, don't know a ton about until those maps will come out and then presumably be voted on in short order.
Okay, obviously something that all of you are keeping an eye on. That's Spotlight, Heather Sharon, Amanda Vinicky, and Paris Schutz. And we're back to wrap things up right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
And that's our show for this Wednesday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
And you can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night live at 7. Conservationists mount a last-minute effort to save a tiny patch of rare prairie threatened by an airport expansion.
And we're live in Pilsen for our In Your Neighborhood series, a preview of Day of the Dead celebrations and much more. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a great evening.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm dedicated to preserving the dignity and rights of all individuals.